Hey, it's me, Francis, and today we're going to get started on a new Dungeon Synth project. And this time, we're going to use hardware instruments and hardware effects. So, in the previous season, I guess is what we'll call it at this point, we made a Dungeon Synth project using virtual instruments in Reaper. I'm still going to record in Reaper, and I'm still going to mix and master in Reaper, partially just because that's what I have, and partially because I thought about buying a tape machine to do this and thought about how many additional cameras and ways of recording sound sources I would need in order to make the videos work. So we're going to skip that step, and I think that what we'll end up doing is to treat our digital recordings a little bit more like their tape recordings, which means going easy on stuff like editing, going easy on things like looping, and treating it more like it's an analog recording. So without further ado, let's just get started. For today's video, we're just going to use this bottom keyboard and these two effect boxes. This one's a reverb, and this one's a reverb and delay. This keyboard is a Mellotron M4000D, and I understand that these are very expensive, but these concepts will apply to pretty much any basic preset keyboard. I'm just going to be picking sounds I like from this and recording them. So very little additional effort will go into that. I want to start with this acoustic guitar sound. It's a nylon string acoustic guitar, so it sounds a little bit like a harp when you play it on a keyboard. And I'm going to be processing it with this Meris Mercury7 reverb. Let me just show you what this sounds like. So it's a nice, beautiful pluck kind of a sound, and I think it'll be a great framework for a track. No better time than the present to just hit record and go for it. Let's see what happens. I think that's going to be a pretty good starting point for a track. Let's take a look in Reaper at what this recording looks like. In all of the other videos on my channel, we've been using MIDI sequences, so we see the notes. And in this case, we just see the waveform of the recording because I'm not using MIDI. So it might be a little bit harder to follow along with what the notes I'm actually playing are in this series. And if you're having trouble with that still, there's plenty of good content on my channel and other channels about composing music. And I will direct you there in the description. So for this video, we're going to focus more on the actual recording process with hardware. And in this case, our song is sort of in D minor, and it follows a few basic chords. I am recording this to a metronome, and that metronome is at 150 BPM. Let's just play this back and listen. Okay, and I like it. I've been messing around to get ready and get some sounds ready for this series, but I hadn't written anything yet, and I think that I'm going to keep this, and this will be the starting point for our track. Now, because I'm not using MIDI, I'm actually going to take some notes here, and let me show you what my process is, and this is an unnecessary step, but for some of you it may be helpful, and for me, since I might be making these videos over the course of a few weeks, it's going to be very helpful. And what I'm going to do here is mark what my notes are. This is a D minor chord. It's outlining a D minor chord at least. So I'm going to just write in D minor here. And this is sort of a B flat chord. This is the D minor again. And this sounds a little bit different because the melody changes, but it's still a B flat chord. That's a C. And that's a D minor again. and that's an A minor to a B flat. And having this written down is really, really going to help me if I come back to this later with another instrument and I want to essentially continue the recording. I'm tempted, in the interest of time and keeping these videos relatively short, to just loop this, and I will probably do that. But first I want to show you what the actual process will look like if I chose not to loop it, so that if you want to do it sort of the old-fashioned way, you have that knowledge. So right here is where that loop would start. I'm going to write repeat. And in this spot, what I would do is start a new recording with the same settings. And if you want the recording to work and you want to do multiple takes like this, it's really important to have the same or relatively close to the same settings. If you're using presets, write down which preset you're using. In this case, I'm going to change the name of the track from stereo input to Flux, which is a preset that I made on this Mellotron using the nylon string acoustic guitar and the steel string acoustic guitar as a blend to blend in that steel sound. I'm going to put tone at 12 o'clock. So the tone knob's right in the middle. It's basically a gentle filter. Okay. I will leave off the settings of the reverb. That would be very important as well. But since I'm going to do this instrument all in one day, it's not going to be a big deal. Okay. There are two approaches that I think are valid here. One would be if you have enough tracks, like if you have a 16-channel tape machine instead of a 4-channel tape machine, what you could do is just put the overdub on a new track. Another thing you can do is punch in. If you're using tape, it's really helpful to have another person recording you, an engineer. If you're doing it by yourself, that can be difficult. And what that is essentially playing back the recording and hitting record while it's playing. On a computer, we have the luxury of essentially having the computer work as your engineer. And that's what we're going to do right now. In Reaper, I like using record mode, tape mode. So what that does is it causes new recordings to replace old recordings instead of using a playlist system, which is common in digital audio workstations. It's like another way you can sort of cheat with computers. I don't think of it as cheating. It's really not much different than doing it any other way. It's just a different way of visualizing it, essentially. So in this case, we're going to use tape mode, and we're going to treat it like it's tape, where we don't get the luxury of overdubbing it. And because I don't have an engineer here, what we will do is to set up a pre-roll, is what it's called. I have a custom action for this, which toggles pre-roll on the track. This isn't on Reaper by default, so I'll show you where this exists normally. I think it's in here. Yeah, pre-roll. So if we turn on pre-roll and then go back to that menu, you can see pre-roll is checked off now. Pre-roll measures is set to 2. And what that does is if I hit record, watch where the playhead starts. My playhead here is on the place where it says repeat. So it starts 2 measures before. And then once it gets past that, the recording gets replaced. And again, you don't want to just do that if you're using tape. I'm doing it to demonstrate. That would have just sort of erased that recording. So you should be ready and be rehearsed and be prepared to play what you did. So what I need to do here is to learn what I played more or less. So I'm going to listen back. And then so that last note becomes a C. And if you haven't learned your song and you're just sort of recording as you go, like I am here, pick the smallest piece that makes sense for you to record. Avoid situations that'll make you frustrated. In this case, I'm going to bite off those first two phrases and record those, and then I'll do pre-roll again and continue from there. So, and right there, I forgot what the next part was because I didn't prepare for it, which is fine. Okay, let's just find out what that part is. Okay, I think I've got it. And this is our starting point. Again, pre-roll is set to 2 measures, so we'll start 1, 2 measures early, and the recording will replace starting here. I made a mistake there, so I'll record again. Okay, there we have it. Ready to loop in order to save time. So I will create a generalized structure of the song using those parts, and be with you shortly. Okay, at this point, I want to create sort of an outro section for the song. I've just basically looped those 2 sections that I recorded a few times. And I was thinking that maybe we could have a different section at the end of the song. So I was messing around earlier and I played a chord that I like, and I feel like it fits into this song nicely. It was based on the same key. And the question is, can I remember what the chord is? So let me just go and take a look here, and let's see if I can play it. Yeah, that was it. Very flamenco sounding chord. And what we'll do is see if I can come up with something based on that. Okay, that's what we've got, and I think that'll work as an outro. I'll label it outro, and I'll think about what those chords are later if I have trouble identifying what to play along with them. There was a little bit harmonically ambiguous, using harmony systems that are rooted a little bit more in flamenco and that style of guitar. I think that I must have been inspired by the nylon string guitar sound to do that. Also because I really like those types of chords. They use a lot of minor seconds and sevenths and things like that that are not typical to a lot of types of Western harmony. Anyway, what we can do next is create a new track. And I'm going to duplicate this track because we're using the same instrument. I'm basically just going to change the preset and use a different sound. And so we're still using the same inputs of 7 and 8, which is where I'm plugged in. And I'm just going to select another sound on my keyboard. So trying out different pedal settings. Here's with delay. Delays often have a lot of repeats, so I'm going to adjust that a little bit more in the background. Might sound nice. And here it is with both that reverb and the delay. I think that sounds nice, but it might be overwhelming, so I'm going to leave the delay out and create a sort of a pad texture over this. Again, let's take a look in Reaper here and identify how I'm following along with what I'm doing. Normally what I would probably do is write out these chords, maybe write myself out a little chart, just write D minor, B flat, D minor, B flat, C, etc., and just put them in front of my keyboard like this. In this case, I am able to cut the video, so I have as many tries as I need, and I'm likely to waste my own time by doing this, but I don't have a piece of paper within reach, so it's going to be as many takes as it needs. Let's give it a shot and try recording. So I could pretend like I made that mistake intentionally, but I didn't. And if you didn't hear what the mistake was, well, that's because mistakes don't matter very much, do they? When you're the one making the mistake, you notice it. When other people are watching you make a mistake, they notice it if you wince or if you make a facial expression or tell them you made a mistake, unless it's a really horrible rhythmic mistake. If you did catch the mistake, great. We're going to leave it in there. And if that bothers you, don't worry. I will find some way of sort of covering it up. I'll draw attention to it and show you what I do when there's a part of a song that I'm self-conscious about. Here we are back in Reaper, and what I did was I decided to record a string part twice, and that second string part was a little bit more dense than the first one. More notes happening at the same time, layers of notes. And I think that what we'll do is, let's call that strings also. The patch is called strings. I name my own patches on the Mellotron. I think most keyboards let you do that, but anyway. At this point, we have a relatively detailed arrangement, 2 stacks of instruments, and I think that what we need is another part, or maybe some type of a low frequency instrument or a drum. Let's take a listen to that mistake before I forget, and I'd like to mark it. So I'll play it back from here, and we'll watch the playhead move past. Right there. So I'm not comfortable with that. But like I said, we're going to treat this kind of like it's a tape recording, and a very primitive one at that, where we don't have the option to punch stuff in every little mistake. So I'm going to poke some fun at that. Maybe I'll add a percussion instrument or something else to cover that up. And I'll show you what there's some ways that I will use to mask a transition. So mask this. Mask me. Okay, and let's just listen to the rest of that. Nice. I like it. And you'll also notice that I'm doing fade ins and fade outs on the actual volume control of the keyboard. And this is just to save myself time mixing later. I'm of the opinion that the performance should sound like the finished recording. If you could make a recording that sounds finished without mixing it, why wouldn't you? So, in my opinion, you make it as close as you can to the final mix on your first pass. And I'll be happy if we don't have to do any mixing with this. Another piece that's important with that is what's called gain staging. And that is when you're recording audio, you want to make sure that you're recording it at a level that is appropriate for whatever you're recording into. Maybe with a tape machine, you want to record it a little bit too loud so it gets a little bit of that distortion and saturation that we like from tape machines. If it's a digital recorder, you really don't want to get past 0 decibels here. You can see that I'm peaking at minus 0.1, and that's because when I record my videos, I put a limiter on my master track. But if you go past that, you essentially create distortion, and digital distortion is undesirable to me in most situations. Some people like the way it sounds. It sounds really dirty and grimy, and like it sounds like you're recording on damaged equipment, which I think can be a really nice choice in certain situations. This particular piece of work, I don't want that. This feels very analog. These are essentially tape recordings. Mellotrons are samples from tape, so all of this stuff is very much like supposed to sound organic, to my opinion at least. Anyway, I'm going to add one more track here, and then I'll think about anything else that I might want to do. I might add audio or something like that, something that's not a keyboard. And again, we're just going to duplicate this because we're using only one input. And this will be, I think I want like chimes or something. Maybe bells, chimes or bells. Again, just delete those, and we are ready to get started with the new track. I have a feeling that's going to sound great with the reverb. Here it is with the other reverb. Let me know in the comments if I picked the wrong one, but I'm going with this one. Okay. Starting a recording. I'll show you where I'm starting the recording from. Right in here, the last measure before the repeat. Not happy with that. Maybe half as many, or maybe on the on different beats. We're going to keep the recording running because we're about to get to the next section, and I figure might as well just do it in one take. Okay, I'm relatively happy with that part, but it makes me want more percussion. And I think that the answer to that is either going to be another percussion sample or another keyboard percussion sound, or perhaps bringing in a sample from another recorder. What I want to do here is to decide on a percussion sample. This one, I think we're just going to use the spring reverb in this delay pedal and listen to some of the percussion samples. Cymbal, gong, another cymbal, clash cymbals, a cymbal swell, another one. That one's cool. That one's really cool. This one's nice. It's kind of a tom or a timpani roll. I think this might work. Okay, I think we're going to use that one and create a nice drum sound out of it. This one we might do some additional mixing too. It doesn't have a very percussive transient like some of the drum sounds I prefer to use, but it might sound really cool. So let's give it a shot. That sounded pretty cool to me. I'm going to end the recording there and do the same thing over here. And I placed that gong in such a way that I think on the repeat we'll be able to cover up that little error that I have marked here, the mask this. So let's give it a quick take here and do something similar. I'm keeping in track of where that cymbal is, these two cymbals, because we might end up using one of those instead if that mask this doesn't happen in a place where I'm expecting to play a gong. So let's give it a shot. And as that was playing, I was imagining a cymbal swell into the outro. That one might require a post-production fade out. But there we have it, a percussion part. All right, I think the whole thing sounds pretty good. And I think that the next step that we'll take here is going to be a mixing step. Because I think I like the way the song is shaped, the way that the things that happen in the song happen, the sounds and stuff like that. So our next decision relating to the presentation of it is going to be mixing decisions. I think that's all we're going to do for today's video. And until next time, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing to the channel, and let me know what questions you have and what you'd like to see me do. Bye.